Hello, my fellow X-Men fans. It's Jerry Rasco, and today we are together to talk about X-Men number 11. This is a pretty interesting issue. It's got the first appearance of a character to the Marvel Universe, and it's got a pretty major plot point in regards to the X-Men moving forward. So, very interesting and excited to see that part of the story. Of course, I want to take the time to thank everybody who has been supporting me and the channel. We are upwards of 400 subscribers at this time, so we're well on our goal to 1,000, and that is all because of you. So thank you to everybody who has been subscribing and clicking that button. It means a great deal to me, and I cannot thank you enough for all the support. If you have not subscribed, and this is your first time here, please consider clicking that subscribe button. It's free to do. You just click the button. There's no obligation or payment of any kind. It helps me out, but it also puts you in the running automatically to win some free artwork. So what we will be doing, I have 6 pieces of art here, one for each of the review series on the channel. 2 of them have not debuted yet, but they will be debuting very soon. And 6 lucky winners are going to win this artwork. So 1 person per piece, and they're going to be picked at random if you are a subscriber when we hit the 1,000 mark. So go ahead, get that in there. And as well, if you want to get this art in your hands that much faster, or at least the chance of it, share this out and get other people to subscribe. The faster we get to 1,000, the faster winners get this art. So we've got the Hulk, we've got the Avengers, we've got, of course, the X-Men that we're talking about here today. We've got the Fantastic Four. We've got Captain America. His solo series will be debuting soon. Same with the Fantastic Four. Those are the 2 that have not debuted yet. And of course, we have the Amazing Spider-Man, the series that kicked it all off. So those original pieces of artwork will be sent 100% for free to the lucky winners once we hit that 1,000 subscribers. So when that happens is up to you. The more subscribers we get, the faster it happens. So share the word, let people know, see if you can get other subscribers to join, and we'll get that artwork to you faster. So that all said, thank you so much. Let's get to X-Men number 11 and let's check it out. So first I want to tell you, as of the recording of this video, I have been a little sneezy today, so I apologize if I sniff or sniffle throughout the course of this video. My apologies. That said, here's the cover to X-Men 11, and it's interesting. So I have some issues with this cover. Number one, I have a problem with this sort of perspective of this is the Stranger. So we see you introducing the Stranger. This is that new character that I talked about. This is the Stranger. So this is the first appearance of this character. And he does go on to make other appearances throughout Marvel history. Later in the issue, we'll see he has the ability to change his shape at will. He can get bigger, which he does. And so what's hard to tell, I always thought in seeing reprints of this cover and stuff, I thought he was very large and kind of in the background. I didn't realize he was necessarily floating. And because he doesn't overlap with any of the X-Men, and that we know that he can change his size, there's sort of this weird optical illusion. Here's what I think it's meant to be. The Stranger is floating in the air between the Beast and Marvel Girl and Professor Xavier. And so Angel, Cyclops, Iceman, and Beast are running to try to stop him before he can get to Marvel Girl and Xavier. That's my thoughts. However, because they don't overlap, you could argue that he is much bigger, that he's bigger than normal human size, and that he's floating and these guys are running away from him. There's no way to tell who's in front and who's behind, because scale no longer plays a part, because we know that he can change his shape in his size. Now, I know that because I've read this issue many times. You may not know that if this is the first time seeing it. So for you, you might go, no, it makes sense that he's here. Very simple thing to do. A little bit of overlapping. Having the Beast's hand behind his foot just helps put everybody in place. And then you know exactly how the relationship is in terms of foreground, middle ground, what's behind. And we're just missing that. So that's number one. Number two is the flat color and all this gray. The street is gray. This truck is gray. This one is a greenish gray. Even the people are gray. This building is a flat gray. And it just wipes out to this very flat, very monotone background, which I understand it helps these bright superhero characters pop out. The yellow of the X-Men's costume is very bright. The white of the Stranger's jacket, very bright. They really come off the cover well. And that's what you want. However, the thing that disappoints me is all the time and energy that Jack Kirby spent in drawing out this cityscape. One, I don't think it's necessary. So I would have zoomed the camera in even further, even closer, put these figures closer together. Again, talking about overlapping them a little bit to help with depth. And then we don't need all this empty space. There's nothing here. There's just nothing. And so tons of time is spent drawing bricks, windows, water tower, everything in the right perspective. And it just gets washed out by this solid, flat, dark gray. There's a very easy way to do this. We see there's a gradient here in the sky from dark red all the way down to this pinkish color. You're telling me that we couldn't have some variation in the color, just if nothing else, to help identify that one building is in front of the other instead of it visually just looking like a flat panel. So that's the thing I don't like about the color. And again, I think this is a pretty iconic cover. I've seen it in a number of places, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. The other thing I'll talk about here as well, real quick, I mentioned like all this dead space here, which you need to have space for your logo, which is big. It takes up about, I'll say, a quarter of the cover. And so typically you want your stuff, your characters lower on the page, but they're so low here. And this is what I want to show you. So real quick, I'm going to cut back to me and then hopefully remember to cut back to the comic. When you have comics, so here's a comic book, this is a Spider-Man comic, and then here's this Lobo comic. This, I drew the cover, this is a sketch cover, but it doesn't matter, it's the same concept. You can see the logo is still very large above. So when you're in a comic shop or on a newsstand or on a spinner rack, comics are meant to be sort of stacked up in front of each other on an angle. That's why the logo is large and where it is, so that even if they covered up most of them, each other, you still would be able to see the logo. That's why the logo is so important, right? However, normally, say it's about halfway, it would be more like this. So you would still get that face. We'll do it the other way too. So here's Lobo and Spider-Man. And if I just go like that, it's a Spider-Man comic. Nothing to attract my attention other than the word Spider-Man. I bring it down to about halfway, and boom, what do I get? Spider-Man's face. That's important. I don't put important details down here. These are things when I pick up the comic, I'm going to go, oh, there's other faces. That looks like Kingpin, Punisher. That's cool. I don't put critical information down here because it will get covered one way or the other on a shelf, on a rack, whatever. So Xavier, Marvel Girl, Beast, all way, way too low, need to be pushed up on the page, and there's enough room to do it. So that's my 2 cents on that. As always, drop those comments. Let me know what you think about this cover. Is this classic? Is this iconic? Or could it do with a little bit of a zoom in and characters being moved up on the page a little bit? Okay, that said, here's the cover again. And yeah, Xavier, like I said, Xavier, Beast, Marvel Girl, way too low at the bottom. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Looking at the comic, why can I not? There we go. Okay. So I always tell you this is a scanned PDF copy. Marvel scanned these issues. This one is from 1965, and that's why we have all the old ads, the yellow newsprint, the 4-color coloring, the page turns are all exactly the way they were. This is just the closest format you can get to having those original comics without paying an arm and a leg for really old, highly collectible Silver Age comics. So I really like this format, allows us to zoom in, things like that. The creative team real quick. We still have Stan Lee. We still have Jack Kirby on pencils. We still have Chic Stone on inking. So same team pretty much from the beginning. Or not for quite from the beginning, but certainly for the past few issues. And so, yeah, we've got a good team here putting things together. I will say, compared to some of the other series that we have, review series that we have here on the channel, and even some of the other X-Men issues, I am finding Chic Stone's inks to be, again, what I would refer to as a little light. I've talked about it a number of times. There's points where things aren't shaded. There's no shadows. Like you can see right on this splash page, there's no shadows underneath anybody. Nobody casts a shadow. Now, Angel's body is somehow casting a shadow on his own leg. Beast is casting a shadow on his own foot and arm and kind of on the face. But Cyclops casts no shadow. His arm doesn't cast a shadow on his jacket. Xavier casts no shadow. He's got a little bit on the base of his skull. Nobody casts a shadow on the ground. So where's the light coming from, and why isn't it consistent? It's obviously from the top down because we have a big heavy shadow here under the Angel's arm, but at the same time, nobody's casting a shadow on the ground. So there's times when some of the art feels like, and the term I use is a coloring book. Coloring book has pretty bold, heavy contour lines on the outside, very few detail lines, not a lot of rendering like hatching, cross hatching, feathering of the shadows, etc., and very few shadows. There's little to no black shadows on a coloring book because they want to give you open space to color. So sometimes that's how it feels to me. I do like the fact that the splash page is starting strong with us jumping right into the story, which is fantastic. Iceman is back to wearing boots. So previously he would ice up in the last couple issues, and you could see the trunks he has on, and you could see the outline of the gloves and boots in the ice, but now he's actually wearing them outside the ice. So that's a change back. And then the last thing I'm going to ask is, why is Angel running in the air when he flies? I don't get it. I understand him flapping his wings and flying. We've seen that plenty. But why he's sort of running in the air is confusing to me. If he's landing, maybe throw that, instead of having him leaning forward and leading with his head, shoulders, and knee, maybe have him leaning back because he's coming in for a landing and he's slowing himself with his wings. So it just doesn't work for me as flying in that particular page or panel. Neat. So, I'm sorry. So real quick story recap from previous issues. We had, what was the previous issue? Now I'm like, what was the previous issue? What was issue 10? Was it Eunice? Yeah. Oh no, Kazar. That's right. Sorry about that. So yes, the X-Men went to the Savage Land, fought and then partnered with Kazar, the sort of Tarzan of the Marvel Universe, if you will, in the Savage Land, which was full of different cultures and dinosaurs and craziness, and the X-Men came back. So no continuing story. We're starting off from scratch. So Xavier still has all of his equipment to track powered individuals, whether they're mutants or not. He detects a super powered being, like a really powered being, and the machine is supposed to take the signals and turn them into a visual image for them to use. But this character is so powerful, he disrupts that image and they can't even get it. So now they have to figure out who this is, what might be going on, and deal with it before, of course, Magneto can find them. So that's the deal. And now we get this little playtime of goofing around using powers. Beast jumping around, balancing on his fingers, Iceman icing stuff so that it's slippery, Jean catching him with her telekinesis. So again, showing off the panel of the powers, I'm assuming for anybody who hadn't been reading the first 10 issues of X-Men. So, okay, there we go. We've got that out of the way. In terms of, again, the art, there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. There's just nothing other than this pretty cool line effect. This is done really well. It's hard to keep your line widths and weights consistent, have them moving in a circular pattern without kind of overlapping. This is done very well. And it's all done by hand with a brush. So that's really saying something. That's tough. But again, other than that, there's not a lot to, if you say, as the saying goes, not much to write home about. It's pretty standard stuff. We do cut from the X-Men in their mansion to this white-haired gentleman renting a room from an older lady. This is a bad transition. So in my opinion, there are 3 kinds of transitions from scene to scene that you can have in the comics. Number 1, the preferred method is a page turn. So what would happen is normally you'd have, let's say, all the X-Men stuff here on page 3. So that way, when you turn the page, boop, I turn the page, now we have a new scene. So that is a good transition. The other option is a visual transition. So maybe this scene of Xavier sort of scolding Iceman for goofing off. Maybe we see, you cut here and the lady is reprimanding a kid for goofing off while the stranger is standing behind him like Scott is. That would be a visual transition where things look similar. So we move from one image, one panel to the other. The last one is thematic. So if they were talking about like, geez, where could this guy be? I mean, it's not like he's, living like an everyday guy in an apartment, and then the next image is him living like an everyday guy in an apartment. That's a thematic transition. This has none of those. This is just, okay, I've finished up. I've explained what I need to explain. Let's just go to the next scene. So it's a little disjointed because there isn't that theme, visual, or page turn. So that's where that's not a great transition. And then this is the perfect example of what I was talking about with light inking and coloring book style lines. This old woman who's renting the room, this is straight out of a child's coloring book. She looks like one of the evil stepmothers, or the evil stepmother from Cinderella or something, right? You could just picture this in a child's coloring book. Lots of open spaces for them to color in, very little line to define anything, just enough to get the point across. So there's no shadows, there's no lighting, there's no nothing in much of this. They cast no shadows on the ground. None of the furniture is shaded. Up here, everything is just open light, and it does a disservice to what we're doing. We're trying to create the illusion of 3-dimensional images on a 2-dimensional space, and when you lack shading, that defeats the purpose. You can't have that full feeling of a thing in space blocking light, creating weight, sitting on another object like a radio on a table or things like that. It just doesn't work without the shading. And so for me, this is just very light, very open, and it's not my cup of tea. I want to see more, especially because I know how much Jack Kirby is going to put shadows and his own style of rendering on stuff. And it just makes me wonder, either was he working too fast? Was he working on too many things so he didn't have time? Or was Chic Stone making choices where he just wasn't shading in as much as Jack would have drawn? Very hard to say. Now, this is a scene change. So we've got, this guy is paying the lady. He's not familiar with, as he says, idioms. So she's talking about money, using every term but the word money. And he just hands her a wad of money and he's like, here you go. So obviously money's not that important to him. And now we cut scene. So we turn the page and now he's outside. He's wearing a hat and a coat and he's wandering around New York City. Great. That's a good theme, a good scene change. And he gets tired of waiting for traffic, so he just walks above them. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I guess people don't do that. And so he goes to escape and he just walks through a wall. But something is attracting him to this wall. And again, this is sort of my sticking point on the entire issue. Like, you look at this green wall. I have no problem with the choice of green. That's fine. It works as a neutral color. I have no problem with it. there's there's a slightly darker line under here. There's a couple of black squares for windows, and that's it. There's no heavier contour line to define edges. There's no rendering or shading inside of the sill around the window. The parts that obviously, are sticking out, little ledges and stuff of the architecture, none of them cast shadows. The figures, he's wearing this big long coat, it doesn't cast a shadow. He's wearing a hat, it doesn't even cast a shadow over his face. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, it's just, I don't know. It's like, for me, it's like getting, it's like having a birthday cake without frosting on it, if that makes sense. If you love cake, you're like, it's still cake. Cake is good. I don't mind cake. But if you take the frosting off, it's missing something important that makes it special. And I think that's what's happening. We have some very intricate, crazy, detailed Kirby mechanics and technology that, again, is just colored flat gray. Sad. And, of course, who does he find but Magneto and the Brotherhood? So I guess that's kind of what was to be expected. I do have a plot question, though, which is, A, how did Magneto know about the stranger? So Xavier knew because he has Cerebro. He can detect. He has machines to detect it. I guess maybe Magneto can do the same thing, though. My understanding was always that Cerebro and Xavier's machines were based off of his own mental abilities. So how was Magneto able to sense the stranger? 2, how was he able to lure him to his headquarters? This guy's like, I'm drawn towards this place, and he doesn't know why. And Magneto's like, I've been waiting for you. Well, how did you know about him, and how did you get him to go there? I don't understand, and it's never explained. Never explained. Now, again, good scene change, good scene transition. We cut from there, and now we're looking out this window. This is nice framing technique from inside the window to out, and then the next panel we cut to the outdoor scene. So that's pretty nice. This guy window washing, an Angel asking him if he's seen anything weird, and he's like, you. So that doesn't get him anywhere, and he takes off. Cyclops is walking around, and the cops try to take his glasses off, which of course turns into a nightmare. And this third panel's not bad. So he's not trying to hurt anybody. He says it. He accidentally hit it. He's trying to find his glasses and stop his blast from going all over, and he just happens to turn at the guy's voice, and shoots through the gun. So you've got some nice bits and pieces there as the beam cuts through the gun. There's an attempt at some, more dramatic lighting to reflect the light from Cyclops' optic blast. So that part's good. And it's a pretty good close up. So not too bad. So Beast saves Cyclops, and off they go. And to escape, Iceman has created this ice chute for them to slide down to safety, which is fine. Up here, on most of the panels, except for panel 1 on the right-hand page here, it looks like ice. I buy it. I go, that's great. Yeah, that looks like kind of semi-transparent ice. Here, instead, it looks like cloth, and that's because of all these lines. So I understand the idea, some of its motion, you're supposed to give the impression that they're sliding down, but it just doesn't have the same effect because those lines just work as wrinkles. And again, it looks like they're sliding down like a cloth chute of some kind, versus the rigidity of ice. It doesn't help that it's not perfectly spherical either, because you see the tube here, it looks spherical. You see it here, it looks, I guess cylindrical would be a better term. It looks cylindrical. This looks cylindrical. Here, you can see there's sort of this weird, like, spinny, and there's lumps. It looks, again, it just feels like cloth. Again, I'm always up for anybody's opinions. If you think this is the perfect way to depict ice, by all means, let me know. But to me, it just looks like cloth. Then they pop out, and hey, they're gonna try to figure this out now that they kind of have an idea of where the stranger has gone off to. Iceman suddenly has no eyes. I don't know why. Let's just zoom in here. You can see he's got kind of eyebrows, no eyes. And I understand he has white eyes maybe, but, Jean's got white eyes, and we've seen Iceman with eyes before, so all of a sudden we have no eyes. So there we go. So, of course, Magneto we cut back. Again, not a great transition. Doesn't really work. That's fine. We're not going to beat that dead horse into the ground. Too late. But we cut back to Magneto's headquarters, and he's made his pitch to the stranger, like, you should join me. And he's like, why? And they begin to demonstrate their powers and how powerful they are. So this is nice little mishmash of metallic equipment that Magneto is wrapping him up with. Finally, we have a panel that's bigger than like 3 by 3 inches. So it's nice to have a little bit of space there to see the equipment coming together and wrapping him up. That works really well. And then Mastermind creates a couple of illusions, and we can tell the stranger is not having it. This is a very nice close-up in panel, I guess this is 5. I think this works really well. I like the coloring. I like the heavy shading on one side, so that's really nice. The nose is casting a shadow into that hollow of the eye. You even have some rendering on the side of the nose as the light transitions. That's all done really, really well. So this is a good close-up face right there, and I like it quite a bit. And then boom. So that's a good page turn as well. You don't want to have the big explosion given away. They can't contain the stranger. He flares his powers, and everybody goes flying. So that tells you he is more powerful by far than Magneto, which we know that's not going to go well, right? And then he turns Mastermind into some sort of solid inorganic matter of some kind. So basically stone, but they don't say stone. And he's so heavy that he just falls through the floor of this multi-story building until he hits the ground. Real quick, I just want to point this out to everybody. Let's make sure that we're looking at this. So as Mastermind is transformed, his left arm is kind of bent a little bit at his side. His right arm is forward, and his legs are bent. Just make a mental note of that. Remember that. We'll come back to that. Okay, so the X-Men hear the commotion, and they run over, and Angel is going to go through the hole in the wall that was just blown apart here by the stranger. I feel okay about this. Again, this is my problem here with this. The Angel, you can't put the Angel in running poses. Flying and running are not the same thing. The wings are very nice, by the way. I think the feathers and the way the wings are drawn is really nice. He's going through this hole and flying and landing in. Put his feet forward and his torso backwards. Again, think about a bird coming into land, right? They kind of flutter, flap, flap, flap to slow themselves down, and then they'll land. He is like head first, running on air. What's supporting him? Nothing. His wings are folded up tight, so he's just sort of gliding in. Well, then fly in. Put the legs out behind him. Or again, have those wings spread as he's slowing himself down so that he can make a controlled landing. This is nothing. It makes no sense. He lands, and of course, he sees the Brotherhood, so he's going to rush to the attack because we've identified in previous issues that the Angel is the most aggressive member of the team, and Quicksilver is going to make quick work of him because the Angel can't match his speed. We've seen that before. Again, nice. This wide panel is nice. We get that nice scene of everybody here. So you've got the Brotherhood, you've got Angel in a good pose, and the stranger just kind of standing and watching what happens. That's really nice. I like that. And this is good pacing. So again, if you have small panels that are real close together like that, the reason you want to use those and how it should be used is as pacing, meaning this happens moment to moment to moment. There's nothing that happens in between. So to give you an example, on the next page, the stranger sort of becomes this whirlwind, and he uses that to transport himself, Magneto, and the Toad away. And so from when Toad jumps in to this thing kind of snaking around on the floor till it passes through a wall, there's a couple of moments in time there. This is not immediate. Here, because Quicksilver's moving fast and Angel's trying to fight him, these are literally moment. And so that pacing is really nice. That's done well. And then, yeah, Iceman uses powers. Usually it's whenever the teams collide, it seems to be it's Marvel Girl picking Quicksilver up off the ground, so his powers can't do anything. But here we've got Iceman icing him up solid and stopping him from running. So that's a nice touch there. Yeah, so again, not much, honestly, to talk about the next page or two here. We've got kind of same sort of stuff. Still fighting Cyclops, destroying this wreckage that the Beast is juggling. And then we've got the Marvel Girl, Scarlet Witch, what could have been like the beginning of a cool battle, immediately is like, no, Scarlet Witch, I don't care about you. I just want to help my brother. And so that stops immediately, and Cyclops blasts him out of the ice. So this panel 2, is an upshot of the face of Quicksilver as he's laying on the ground, and we're looking up at his face. It's done pretty well. There are things, as you can see, normally the distance between your eyes and the bottom of your nose is sort of halfway down between your eyes and mouth, but the nose is much higher, closer to the eyes, because as you tip back, you have the perspective. And the foreshortening, your jaw being closer is going to be larger. This is all going to go back, and your features are going to shrink up in tilting the head back. We see it all the time. This is done pretty well. There's not a lot of references in terms of where the hairline is, the ears. Those are other things that help define that upshot. But in terms of just the features of the eyes, nose, mouth, that is actually done very well. So it looks like at this point, this is a turning point. Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch are like, we've had enough. We keep getting betrayed by Magneto. He leaves us, not for dead, but he leaves us there. We're done. We're out of here. And so that's a turning point. So this is, again, the beginning of the breakup of the Brotherhood, and eventually we'll see Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch showing up in the pages of the Avengers. So that'll be cool. The Stranger comes to like a park, a wood, I guess, somewhere in the woods, stops, and they're talking. And and again, Magneto's like, "What? Who are you? And I love this. He's like, "You're almost as powerful as me." And this guy's like, "Whatever, dude." And he tells him, "Hey, I'm not a mutant. I'm even more powerful than that." And this is where he begins to grow. And this is a nice bit where Magneto, for half a second, is like, "You can't be Giant Man." So is this Giant Man in disguise? No, it is not. This guy is the Stranger. And so again, we still don't have his origin yet. We'll cover that a little bit later, just kind of give you some history on it. But again, this is the first time we're seeing the character, so nobody knows anything about where he's from. But he is a giant, and he can transport people at will. He turned Mastermind into stone. He covers Toad and Magneto in this sort of sticky, gooey trap, but it's non-magnetic, so Magneto can't stop it. He can't fight his way out of it. And now we cut back to Xavier at his mansion, examining this form of Mastermind, where he says he's alive, but he seems to be solid. And I wanted to point that out. Remember what I told you to make a mental note? Now he is completely straight and rigid. His legs are not bent. His arms are not bent. One hand is not out in front. One hand is not away from his side. Somehow, since he's been turned into immovable stone, he has somehow managed to straighten out his limbs. Interesting. So Xavier realizes this person, whoever the stranger is, he's way more powerful than Magneto, way more of a threat. We've got to find him. So boom, the X-Men make their move, and because he's so powerful, Xavier is able to track him to where Magneto and Toad ended up. This is a nice group shot of them running away from their helicopter towards danger. I just wish it was bigger, right? That group shot of them coming at you needs to be large, exciting. Instead, we get the larger panel of them finding Magneto and the Toad and not being able to do anything because whatever the stranger created to encase them, if you try to touch it, it would wrap you up as well. I will say this is a nice reaction shot of the Angel here. Let me zoom in a smidgen more so that we can really see it. So yeah, so as the kind of cocoon around Magneto is wisping off, and as he says, it would have enveloped him too. You got the hand up, that one hand back catching him, all that weight on that knee as he's reacting to it. Good facial reaction. Overall, it's very good. That's a nice some body language storytelling there that I think works really well. And now we have the stranger, and he's like, "Hey, I told you I'm a stranger from the stars," and this is more. He begins to transform even more into his true form, which is this big lit, gigantic, crazy form that's semi-humanoid. And he explains that he has been going from planet to planet looking for mutants, mutations, examples of species to take back and study. And so he's going to take Magneto and the Toad, and they're going to be examples of mutants that the stranger and his people study. So that great. I love the big panels here. I think that's really nice. It helps in terms of the scale, selling the size of the stranger as he's growing into this big light form and blasting away from Earth. It would really lose its impact if it was small panels. So that is very nice. I will say the cosmos around Earth is way more cluttered than it really is. You still cannot see Saturn from Earth orbit. There's only one sun, and all these other things are just little twinkly stars. Everything in space is gigantic and millions of years away and all that kind of stuff. So not so much this big planetary view that we would see. But that's okay. That's just fun storytelling. And then we've got some good expressions. The Beast's expression is just dumbfounded, like, this is the end of Magneto. Like, this guy just took him off into space. This is it. No more Magneto. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are gone. Mastermind is a piece of stone, and Toad and Magneto are gone. So I guess that's the end, and they just can't really believe it. They're just shocked. And Marvel Girl equally shocked. Angel kind of cheering, like, hey. And so there's some nice reactions there. The police show up because they saw the light show and everything, and they do recognize the X-Men, and they just kind of want to talk to him, but they're going to hightail it out. So they load back up in their helicopter, and they fly home, and everything is cool, where Xavier then tells Cyclops, like, I guess we can take some of these names out of Cerebro because we won't be seeing them again. And then all of a sudden, this thing goes crazy, and they're talking about this is the most biggest, powerful being that Cerebro has ever detected, and that's going to be coming in the next issue. So again, in terms of the art of this panel, of this page, again, not much to write home about. It's kind of the same so far, and it's okay. And then we get to the end of the story. So real quick, we're going to cut back to the desk. I'm going to give you a little bit of history on the stranger, and then we're going to wrap things up. So I did a little research in the Marvel Handbook, the official Marvel Universe Handbook, and that has an entry for the stranger. And the stranger is a very powerful cosmic being that came from a planet where basically all of the people of his planet took all of their collected mental powers and put it into one large being that would have all the, I guess, all the power of their entire civilization, and that person is the stranger. And so he is a ultra powerful traveler throughout the cosmos, trying to understand things like, as you see, things like mutation, other alien technologies, species, things that he can bring back to his people to find ways to battle and eventually win over their ancient nemesis, right? So that's kind of a very high level summary of the stranger. That he makes more appearances in the Fantastic Four as well as the Silver Surfer. So those are the kind of places you can see more of the stranger. In terms of a rating of this issue, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. There's little bits of action, but there isn't great overall action. We see there's some good stuff. There's a lot of really, like I said, at the beginning, a lot of really thin stuff that looks like coloring books, things that just need more. It needs depth. It needs something, and it's kind of missing. So for me, again, it's okay. If other than the fact that from a plot standpoint, if you didn't know that Magneto had been kidnapped from Earth at some point, it wouldn't make sense when you see him come back. Beyond that, this to me is a complete, you don't need this in your collection. If this was just the stranger showing up and the X-Men and Brotherhood fighting over who's he going to join, and then him taking off and leaving everybody behind, I'd be like, this is a nothing story, and it doesn't forward the story of the plot any. That all said, we do have something very exciting to look forward to in the next issue, and that is a new art team. So we are going to get a completely different and some very famous people doing the art of the next issue, and I'm very excited to talk about that with you. So X-Men number 12 is going to be a doozy. So join us here, same time, next week for that. A super big issue, X-Men number 12, a big one to look forward to. I'll see you here next time with more X-Men. Thanks.